So I know Jim was here. We'll just wait till he gets back and then we'll get started on this and get going. And I wish we could have done this in person, mind you. We're hoping to, but unfortunately it due to staying pretty cautious still, not sure what the new variant's doing. Probably the best way to do this for a short period of time anyways, to keep everybody safe and till we see the direction that it goes. But today we're actually going to cover off a fair bit of stuff, but really want to thank everybody for taking the time. I know we probably had lots of different Zoom meetings over the last little while, and it would have, as I say, would have been good to do everything in person and really get to see everybody. But the next best thing is get to see your faces and we get to chat and get caught up. And I really want to thank everybody's time here, as well as we have Alicia, that is part of our international team, Vice President of Realty Executives International, has joined us. And so it's pretty exciting. Thanks, Alicia, for taking the time to be part of this.
Well, thank you for having me.
And so, first of all, one of the things I want to sort of cover off and make it interactive is we do a lot of business across Ontario, right? So, and I know there's referrals that go back and forth. So I do want to cover off just letting you know what I see in the marketplace and to get feedback from the different areas where you are. And so like right now, where our head office is in Mississauga, so just west of Toronto, what we're seeing here is we still on properties that show really well and are priced properly. We're still seeing multiple offers. We are very shy on listings. We're hoping to see more listings coming out in the fall as we sort of get, people get settled with doing, getting kids back to school, understanding what that's going to look like. Because there is still lots of talking, throughout on this area about, more listings coming up, but there's still lots of buyers. In Toronto, downtown Toronto, 3-4 months ago, a little bit of a lull in the condo market, but in the last 35, 60 days, especially in the last 30, the condo market in Toronto has been seeing multiple offers, price appreciation. So there is a demand for people that are starting to come back into Toronto. There is actually a demand where we're seeing investors starting to buy up some of the product in condos in Toronto. So that's a strong sign. I was down, go down to Toronto for different events, and there's definitely a lot more population, a lot more foot traffic. We're seeing new openings of stores, because we did have, several that had closed, seeing a lot more new openings. And, there's, and you're getting the events back, we're getting, TIFF was back. So you had, the International Film Festival's back, football's back playing, baseball's back playing, hockey is going to be playing, Raptors have been okay to start playing. So we're seeing a resurgence of downtown. Also, just to let you know, the other thing that through my connections, talking with different ownerships of different companies and corporations, and through my clients, they've actually been informed that as of November 1st, lots of them are going to be coming back to what they call a hybrid model for work. So what they're going to be doing is they're going to be doing 2 days a week on the first week, 3 days a week the next week. So every other week, they are going to be having people coming back into the office. And yet some of their company organizations, such as anything to do with support for, anything to do with your support for any type of services, any type of e-commerce, all of those people have been told they're actually going to be working from home permanently, which is interesting. So what the people they're bringing back in are creative, marketing, strategy, sales. So, I just thought I'd share that with you. That's what I've been told, and that's where the companies and different things that people are looking at. What's going to be happening with Toronto? Is Toronto going to be a ghost town? What's going to happen to the people that bought outside of the GTA? Are they going to have to start coming back? Some of them are. Some of them are actually looking at, they've already been called back, but on a hybrid model. So I thought that was kind of interesting to see. One thing that hasn't affected, we haven't seen the influence yet in Toronto is immigration. Immigration has been very minimal, and the anticipation is we're going to see over 400,000 people next year being allowed into the, be allowed in. The majority of those are going to gravitate to Ontario, right? So there's an opportunity there for that. As far as the Niagara Falls area, Jim, I know you were asking about what's going on in Niagara Falls. They are still seeing an influx of people from the GTA, but not as crazy as it was 6-8 months ago. So, but still there are, they're getting a mixture of people that are selling in the GTA, retiring there. They're also getting people that are looking at buying as investments, because the rents are still strong and the pricing, even though it's appreciated, there's still some room in return for them, for the Niagara Falls area. Okay. Now, Jim, your office just sort of north end of Toronto. What are you seeing?
I would say condominiums that are priced reasonably well are moving fairly fast. And yet detached housing in our area has sort of reached a $2 million plus threshold, and it's stagnating because of the $2 million price. The trading area that I like to trade in, I would say not that long ago was, I thought $1.5 million was a lot. But we've seen 6 or 7 listings sitting on the market now for 84 to 90 days in the 2.2 range, which were the 1.5 listings at one point. So they've scaled out. And when a product comes in that's in the $1.5 million range, it's usually gone right away, like almost overnight with multiples.
So again, you are seeing some where the appreciation of pricing is affecting some buying power in the consumers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know I'm going to drift off subject a little bit, but I'll let you go back. Dan's got a place, or Matt's got a place. You asked me about my place up at the lake. Okay, places 2 years ago were selling for $60,000. They sold on the weekend for $175, the same place. So never in my lifetime did I think a trailer would appreciate.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You don't own the land, for God's sake. So it's crazy. Anyway, that's what's happening in my world.
Okay. Super. Where's Carl hanging around? All right, Amanda, Carl, you guys are in Sudbury, and all I heard about from you over the last 6-8 months is where are all these Toronto people coming from?
That's right. That seems to have slowed down somewhat, the Toronto flow, but all the locals are still they're on the move. What you can find, we still have an inventory problem in terms of lack of housing like everywhere else. But in many cases, we're seeing, 9 to 15 offers on a property.
Wow. Okay.
And they're selling, still today. And they're selling 50, 100 over, no problem. Which was unheard of, a year ago. We didn't see 100,000 over asking, but it's almost commonplace now. If they want it, they just buy it.
Yeah. Now, are you seeing, I know when we chatted, it was a lot of GTA people trying to do a flip, like buy and try and flip it even before closing it. Has the market appreciated to the point where that's not happening?
That's not happening, more so because we're not working with them. Most agents don't want to take them with those clauses, right?
Right.
All these assignment clauses.
Okay.
So we don't have to deal with them. There's plenty of other cash buyers out there. So if it's got an assignment clause, we try and avoid them if we can. We recommend that they don't take them, versus when we got another one on the table, equally as good. you know, doesn't have an assignment clause, then that's what we'll go with.
Yeah. Hey, Dan, I know that, you know, you're east of Toronto, and I know when we chatted, you were having, again, that Toronto influence coming that way. Is it still strong?
Yes, we've we've got the magic 1 hour from Toronto. So
Right.
we've got the combination of professionals moving down here, and when they need to commute in, we've got the Via that takes them right downtown Toronto in an hour or 55 minutes. We are seeing, but we have, Cobourg has always been influenced by Toronto, but we're seeing a balance jumping in from Durham as well. Toronto people tended to jump over Durham and right into Northumberland. Now Toronto is going into Durham, and now Durham is moving out, which is changing the demographics. We're now seeing families move out here, where we had a very high influence of retirees, and retirees don't spend money. So when we got young families, we're starting to see commercial expansion. I think in the last 2 months, we've had 22 stores opened up in Cobourg alone. So
Wow.
for a town of 18,000, that's pretty substantial. So there is some confidence that way. And we're too are still seeing multiple offers. On average, I would say it has backed off a bit, but up until I would say 60 days ago, we were seeing between 125, 150 over asking on just about everything. But we're now seeing realtors. We weren't adjusting our pricing. We were still pricing the product what we believe was appropriate for our market, and letting the consumer decide where the gravy was. Now we're starting to see the realtors bumping up the pricing, which is reducing the amount of offers. So the multiple offers, we're still getting them, but instead of 20 to 25, we're seeing 3 to 7. But the prices are still coming up to where the expectations of the sellers are. So.
Okay, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Clarence, you're in Peterborough, which is, you know, an hour and a half or so from Toronto, and now we're from sort of the, you know, the northeast part. What's going on in Peterborough?
Well, we're pretty much reflection of Dan and everybody else. It's always the same. We did have a lot of people coming in and seeing the big ones, but the multiple offer, thank God, is starting to wean a bit and stuff and down, and you still see 3 or 4. Our problem is we're so short of listings. We're no product to sell.
Yeah.
And but they're still out there. And I just finished one last week there that people from Durham jumped over Cobourg, Port Hope. He wanted it down east, so we sold his house for in excess of $1 million. He bought one for $575 down in Brighton, actually. So there's still some hope down there that prices are reasonable. But anyway, he thought he'd spend $450 and ended up spending $525. So there's still probably, and there were 7. We were one of 7 offers on that, and those people were they're still there. We saw it, and as we were looking towards Kingston, we saw more. As you got closer to Kingston, you get 13 to 15 offers, whereas there was a lull in the area there just north of Brighton and whatnot. And I see Dan shaking his head.
Yep.
He's there that there was it just seems to be spreading, and then from Kingston came back, but shortness of listings is our biggest problem right now, trying to get something to buy. And I think that makes multiple offers in itself, right? Because there's only one product to choose from.
Yeah. Just to share something on a side note, you know, looking at real estate in Ontario, my daughter goes to Queens in Kingston. This is, you know, she's starting her 5th year there. And I can tell you in the last, when we first went to look at housing for her, I thought, oh, maybe I'll look at buying a place. And then I decided, you know what, I don't need to be a long distance landlord, even if she is there. Well, this year's 2 years ago, all of a sudden there was like all these new foundations being put in. Today, when we went back in September, there are 5 new cranes. They're building 8-story design build units that investors can buy and rent out to students, where Kingston never had any of that. You know, if you were buying something for, you know, student housing in Kingston, it was an old brownstone or, detached kind of house. But now they're knocking down stuff all along Main Street, and they're building, 6 to 8 stories and geared 1, 2, 3 bedrooms. And that is something that I never thought I'd see in Kingston, but it's booming. So I don't know if, I know, outside the GTA, we have lots of brokers here that have offices in university or college communities. I don't know if you're seeing that yet there, but if Kingston's doing it, then, you may start seeing some of that take place in your communities as well. Frank, your brokerage is in the city north of Toronto. I think they are just above Toronto. What's happening there?
Toronto. No, it's the same thing like everybody else. We're running, there's not too much product right now, but there's a lot of new development happening here in Vaughan. The land in front of me actually just sold for $90 million. Green Park just bought that. They're gonna put another 10 buildings in front of my office here, so that's pretty good. So a lot of new construction happening around my office and in the Vaughan area in general. But again, lack of product in terms of resale. So.
Okay.
It's been a strong market. It's been a very, very strong market, and yeah, we're all trying to get some inventory, right? We're trying to build that inventory, and
Yeah.
pretty much over here, same thing like everywhere else. It's just a lot of my clients, have sold here in Vaughan and been moving more further north, like Innisfil, Barrie. But the average sale price in Barrie, you need about $1 million in Barrie. So
Yeah.
So that's sort of the movement that we've been seeing here. A lot of people are kind of shifting and moving further north, selling here in Vaughan and going the other way. So
Yeah, and that's been very common, right? That's been the trait. That's where, people have been told during COVID, hey, you're going to be working from home, and then you're going to be, permanently working from home. So we've been seeing people that, well, Carl and I had clients of mine that I sold their parents' place years ago, but they were a young couple working in Toronto in a condo, no car. So like your typical downtown young couple, no car. They wanted to look at places of, Mississauga. They wanted to look at places in Oakville, which is just west of Toronto, showed them places. And by the time we started looking, the price went from $750, and the places that they were looking at, they took the Christmas off, took December off. By the time we started looking in January, it was up to $9 or $1 million. And fortunately, I said, hey, look, this is what's going on. They said, well, we just found out that we can work from home anywhere. Do you happen to know somebody in Sudbury? So I called Carl.
yeah,
Carl ended up selling them a house in Sudbury. So yeah, so right. So you just don't know. That's why it's so important to communicate and keep in touch and do this kind of stuff, so we all have a little bit of a handle what's going on in the marketplaces. And now, Matt, you have offices north, basically around London, Ontario, so more northwest of the GTA. And you've got places that are close to London. You've got places in smaller communities. What are you seeing, and what have you seen with GTA influence, or what's going on in those areas?
Yeah, it's been a major influence. Kind of the joke around here is if you got high-speed internet, you're going to get any Toronto buyers. I'm working with a new subdivision just outside my office, and retired school teachers who are 45 years old are purchasing here, thinking they hit the jackpot. Spending $550 on a townhome where they're, leaving $1.5 million condo, I guess, in Toronto. So it's kind of a quality of life thing. Also, we deal a lot with the lake, like Lake Huron, Grand Bend, Bayfield, Goderich area. Tons of traffic on those listings right now. Anything that's along the lake. Somebody told me there was a brokerage in Toronto that actually named themselves Go West brokerage. So we're seeing, I have some personal property in the Bruce County, and that's getting some traction there too. But we're really seeing that 2-hour commute roughly from Pearson International to where we are, it's not that far of a commute. It's a little nicer than going up north to Muskokas, dealing with, you know, the Highway 400. We're getting a lot of that. I think it kind of seems like in the last couple of years that Toronto's kind of woken up to southwestern Ontario and, you know, the most beautiful sunset in the world in Lake Huron. And it's not only just those lake towns, it's some of the hamlets and the smaller towns that are still 20, 30 minutes away from the lake, which I find kind of interesting, because I ask these buyers, like, so what's bringing you to this town? And, oh, you're close to the lake. And when you grow up here, I think 20 minutes is still far away from the lake. We're not a lake town, but it's close enough for a lot of them.
Wow.
And yeah, a lot of professionals, lawyers, just people, it's often a lifestyle change, as I said. And they're liking the values. Mind you, they are going up just like everywhere else. We have an inventory shortage. First time home buying is a major issue. Yeah, it's even finding like a rental house everything's tough to find something right now. But overall, I mean, if the idea is you get listings and you're going to sell. Buyers are a lot of work and often lose a lot of times, but you get a good listing and you know it's gone.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, and one of the things we saw during COVID was where, you know, you had the people from the GTA looking for waterfront, like they were looking to buy, you know, cottage property where they could see themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, Nelson, you're in Guelph, Cambridge area, Waterloo, not that far out from the GTA. What have you been seeing?
Hey Scott, hey everybody, good afternoon. Yeah, here, I mean, our market has been strong for several years, but this COVID, March was sort of the peak we have experienced this year. And then it is kind of tapered off a little bit. Now it's like a balanced, but still strong seller's market. And if you have a listing, yes, it is. If the property is maintained and priced properly, yeah, it's going to sell in a week. Most of them are still underpricing, holding off offers and doing the bidding kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and Scott mentioned about the student influence and purpose-built student buildings. Yes, we do have them here and also in Waterloo. Some builders are building specifically for students and investors. Yeah.
Mike, North Bay, hopefully you're there. I see you got if you could just give us a little bit of influence on two things. One, the residential side, but I know when we were chatting, you were finding just the number of investors that were gravitating to your area.
Yeah, the residential, just, you know, first of all, hi, everybody. Yeah, residential, same as everybody else. Great deal of lack of inventory. Our prices have gone up. Average price in a year and a half, like 250-ish, and up to now $4.25 to $4.50. North Bay has always kind of been undervalued, so it's kind of about time, because I think Southern Ontario has figured out there are 4 lanes to North Bay, even though we're not a 400 series. So, you know, a lot of waterfront properties, they don't last past a week. Residential, they don't last past a week. Everybody's doing solid directions up here for about that week period. Still lots of multiple offers on the residential side. Income properties, well, Scott, you know, it's cap rates are still pretty good here. There's a lot of people from the south when COVID hit realized that we were 8 or 9% cap rate. Now we're, you know, anywhere from 6 on the really big buildings to upwards of 7.5 or 8 for retrofitted duplexes and triplexes. So we still have really good cap rates that produce the cash flows, and I think the rest of the world's kind of clued into our cap rates that are still pretty good here. And I've probably got a couple hundred buyers now for income property. I'm only one realtor. It's absolutely crazy up here.
All right.
So. Yeah, but I'm finding a lot of those investors are looking for the Burr effect. So I have some listings that have been sitting. They have good cap rates, but there's, you know, the rents are maximized and there's no secondary refinance opportunity a year from now to get that the Burr effect, right?
Right.
So, yeah.
Okay. And Alicia, we're gonna ask if you could just give us, obviously talking with all the different brokers throughout our international system, maybe you could just give us an overview of what you're hearing, what you're seeing throughout North America.
Sure. So the shortage of inventory, especially on the listing end, huge issue all over US and Canada. So I think that's one thing that I'd say has been a common concern for probably well over a year at this point. A lot of the pricing, for homes that are listed are much higher than I think anyone anticipated they would be. I would especially say that here for the Phoenix area in particular. Homes that maybe a year and a half ago would have been, let's call it, 400 to 450 are now well over 600. Multiple offers. Multiple offers is another big thing. Over asking price, a huge thing. I will say though, within the last 60 days, there has been just a slight softening of that, where even though there are multiple offers coming in on properties, and the price is also still often over the asking price, it's not quite as high and there's not quite as many offers on those properties as there was before. So what I'm not sure about is whether that's just a timing thing at this point with school restarting. It could be a lot of different things, especially depending on where you're at in the country. But a lot of what you're experiencing is happening everywhere in the US too. Though I will say it sounds like the pricing in the Toronto area is significantly higher than what we're seeing pretty much all over the US, like with the exception of a few places, like the major markets that you would expect, like, New York and LA and that kind of thing.
Right. Okay. Amanda was asking, and if you saw the chat there, she's asking about, new construction, what do you see coming forward? And Dan, I saw the number you put out there. That is a fair large number of new units anticipated for the Cobourg area. And I can let you know that, my family, we deal with different builders and things like that. And we, talking and meeting with the different builders, they've been buying land outside the GTA. They started focusing about 5 to 7 years ago with the anticipation that there would be, the pricing in Toronto would grow to where they could start buying land cheap enough to be able to make the numbers work. But there's a shortage of land right now. And any builder, and if you have anybody that's got even a possibility of a subdivision, the builders are trying to find land. So and there's certainly lots going to be coming on board. The time frame of that takes a bit of, the municipalities, it's taking a long time, unfortunately. But the appetite from consumers is definitely there. I can tell you in Niagara Falls, the builders of there are bringing on projects all, well into where we thought we would never see big subdivisions. Big companies are out there, and in all aspects, not just not just the smaller condo style. There was a project that was just north of Barrie in Oro-Medonte, which is about an hour and a half, let's say, from Toronto. There are approximately 225 estate lots. Average price, the lowest price started at 1.3, went up to 2.5. They sold out in 60 days. So that gives you an idea of sort of and I was having a conversation yesterday and with the builder, my brother and I, and they just said, the builder just went, people in Ontario, despite the pandemic that we've gone through, have money. They actually have funds, money available, and are in positions where they can take advantage of the lower interest rates. So I just found that interesting, coming from a builder who has the traffic through their website, on pre-registrations, on talking with these people. So found it very interesting to see that, and I know Peterborough has new stuff going on. I know Matt, I know you actually, Matt, you were doing some new construction development and stuff. What were you finding?
Yeah, When you mentioned the municipal hoops that we have to jump through, that's been the main problem in our area. Some of these municipalities aren't really used to development and fast tracking things, so that's been a major challenge. I'm working with a smaller subdivision. It's 120 homes. We just sold out the first phase, and we're hoping to get into the second phase, but we're not even putting them out yet because we don't know how long it's going to take for the municipality to approve it. But yeah, tons of interest and from everywhere.
Okay.
And
I know you must have a specific reason for that question. What are you seeing in Sudbury and the outskirts?
Well, my husband's a home builder, so we've been discussing, because he has a subdivision that he's going to be building in, but a lot of the builders here won't even pre-sell because of the cost of materials right now. So that's where we're struggling, because you can sell it today, but you don't know what the cost is going to be tomorrow. So a lot of the builders here have stopped pre-selling, and then you see them come to market when they're almost finished and there's competitions on them.
Right.
yeah, we had a situation where one of the first homes that we sold as a new home resold after 3 or 4 months for a higher price than what we were selling for new. So the resale market, the new home market can't keep up with the resale market. So it's incredibly hard to price these things, and when do you put them on the market, just as Amanda said.
Yeah, just to touch on sort of the costing, and that's been, Amanda, that's a very good point, because the costing is a big issue. We actually had some of the big builders here that were building condominiums. When the pricing per square foot started really skyrocket beginning of this year, some of them actually slowed down their work and delayed the occupancies in lots of these high-rise condos, to the point where they pushed them back out far enough that the pricing per square foot has actually started coming down in the GTA to build. So, that's interesting to see that the builders, and I'm talking like Mattamy, I'm talking Monarch, I'm talking big builders, will deliberately slow down work to be able to push out and get their cost per square foot for the rest of the build back in line. Because it is, it's very hard to project where the costs are going to be for a project for 3-4 years out. So that is a very good point, Amanda. So and I know with some of the builders here, they've actually started putting in some escalation clauses where they're actually saying if the cost to build is going to be this much higher, they're allowed to elevate the pricing by up to a certain amount. It's been like 3%. Just to share that with you guys. Okay. Well, that certainly gives you an idea what's going on in Ontario, and with Alicia, giving an idea what's going on in international. So something that we've seen moving forward for the rest of this year, the last quarter, I don't see any of that changing. I think we might see some listings come on, but there's still some buyer demand. I think right now we're going to be in a situation for the next 30 days where families are looking at, okay, am I going back? Do I have to go back to the office? Can I still work from home? So I still think there's going to be some of that that's going to keep some of the buyers and sellers on the sidelines until they get that fixed or rectified to the point where they know definitely what they're going to be doing. But companies aren't going to know that until towards the end of getting into November, December. I believe, and what I see for next year, we're going to have a very strong spring market. And I think we're going to see getting back to a little bit more of a normal summer market, where we're going to see very strong spring market, still very strong market all the way across. But I don't believe next summer is going to be as strong as this summer was, just on the fact that we're going to be getting a little bit back to more normalcy. And we're going to have buyers that were hesitant, this year, where what's going to happen, where they're going to get more into a normal buying cycle next year. Any thoughts on that? Anybody got any, what you might see happening the end of this quarter through to next year? Alicia, have you got any insight from anybody from international or our partners?
Yeah, just a little bit on like the buyer hesitancy. One of the things that we are seeing in a lot of areas too, and I think it's going to extend, just my gut tells me it'll extend beyond this year. There are a lot of people who are eager to sell or would be willing to sell their homes that are putting off selling their homes because of the pricing in the market. Being able to buy something that's comparable or like a step up from what they already have is so outpriced compared to what they would want to pay or what they could afford, that's keeping a lot of people in place. I think personally that that's going to stay the same for the rest of this year and probably well into next year as well. Just because I don't see working from home and different areas, I think that gives people some opportunities to move to different places than where they're at. But I do think that the pricing is going to make people hesitant to sell their homes and keep that inventory pretty low for quite some time.
Okay.
Scott?
Yeah.
One thing that, I'm thinking of Nelson or Clarence, and here we are on Young Street in Thornhill, and every speck and pimple of land on Young Street has got a sign on it saying 500, 600 condos coming. And this isn't just a couple of blocks. This is literally stretching from Steeles Avenue to Richmond Hill. And it would appear there's a really aggressive push on the provincial government to get the Young Street subway through to Richmond Hill, because we can see it happening. And, I'll give you an example. I'm thinking of Clarence. When I go out to Peterborough and I look at 100 acres, it's, oh boy, that would be nice to have 100 acres. But I'm looking on my other screen and there's one project here that is approved by the city of Markham. It's 116 acres and 48,000 residents in 116 acres. It's supposed to be designed as a carless community. Well, that's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. But if you've got that degree of debt, in fact, that community will be the second densest community in Canada per square acre. So I think, our long term here would be nothing but great, because, like you talked about 400,000 people coming into the country. Young Street's where they're all, I won't say they're all going, guys, but a lot of them are. By the thousands. And the pre-sales, you're right, they go up and they're closing the offices down in a matter of weeks. So.
Yeah, and that's where, and that's why, we're in a very fortunate business. Very fortunate to be in real estate through this pandemic, being in a strong market. And then obviously looking forward with just, the recovery of the economy and just everything that we're going to see here, especially in the areas that we're in. And to, next on what I want to touch base on, and thank you for everybody's input, is making sure that your brokerages are, compliant, because as of June 1st, FinTrack came out with, different changes and things that you have to implement. And they're giving us until March 31st, 2022 to make sure that those things are being put in play. I have been through 2 FinTrack audits. I know Clarence has had one. Any of you other brokers had a FinTrack audit?
Not here.
No, okay. Do you anticipate that as of next summer, you will start seeing FinTrack doing more brokerage inspections? Okay, so part of this is I want to make sure that if you have any questions with regards to, the new implementation of FinTrack that came in June 1st, I'm here to help. I've been through it, the inspections. I just want to touch on a couple things just so that you are aware. Some of the changes that came in, and hopefully you had the opportunity of going through either Korea or RIA, or your local board may have done some presentations for the brokers about the FinTrack. But just want to make sure that you understand that, the things to look at now is we do have to identify and ask buyers if they are a politically exposed person or head of an international corporation. And if they are, there's, certain things that you have to do just to mitigate any high risk. You also have to check and see if they are is it a family member that you're dealing with? Does a family member have a relative that's politically exposed person or, head of an international corporation? More so for anybody that's dealing with corporations, you've got to make sure now that the beneficial ownership, which means that you have to determine everybody, if it's a corporation that is buying or a corporation is selling, you have to identify anybody that has a 25% ownership. And you have to look at getting company structure, and you have to identify those people. Okay. As of June 1st, I highly recommend that you understand, prior to June 1st, you had, a business relationship was if you did 2 deals with somebody within the last 5 years. As of June 1st, everybody should be allocated as being a business relationship. All that means is you got to fill out page 4 of the paperwork, but identify and get new information every time you do a transaction with somebody. Okay. Even if you just did a transaction with them 2 weeks ago, ask and look at and get the new information all the time, put it in the file. It means you're compliant with just the business relationship side. They also introduced the fact that, you could accept, virtual currency as for transactions and for deposits. I highly recommend, and what we've done at our brokerage is we do not accept cash and we do not accept any type of virtual currency. Okay, and I know for the smaller communities, because like our office in Niagara Falls, somebody rents a place or someone's buying it, they'll show up with $1,000 cash and say, here's the deposit. We say, nope, sorry, you got to go to the bank. Yeah, we don't take any cash at all. So just
Mike.
Yep.
Had a large investor person of mine ask about selling property or whatnot with Bitcoin or virtual currency. We had our lawyer contact the Law Society, and it was not accepted even through the Law Society right now as a transfer of property, and that was just a couple months ago. So just to
thank you. Yeah, that's good because we are hearing, there are some countries that are starting to allow for virtual currency, right? So, but in your policies, procedures, if you just simply say, we do not accept cash, we do not accept any type of virtual currency, cryptocurrency in any way, that's going to make your life a whole lot easier. Okay. One of the other things to look for is on receipt of funds. Prior to June 1st, it was, hey, we got to, when somebody give us bank drafts, that's really secure because it's coming directly from the bank. And, our policy was, as long as we had the bank draft, the numbers, the bank it came from, that was fine. As of June 1st, anybody giving you any type of deposit, the FinTrack people are looking at that as having an effect of an activity on an account. So if someone brings you a bank draft, you actually need to find out where the bank, who the bank draft came from and the account number that got affected. Okay, that has to be recorded. I know that there is some pushback from some buyers who don't want to give up that information because they're saying, well, I gave you a bank draft. Well, except the bank draft is drawn on either CIBC, whatever institution it is, but it doesn't actually say where the money came from. You could backtrack it and say, yes, it came from this bank, and then that bank can find it. But now, as of June 1st, FinTrack, and if you look at the actual receipt of funds paperwork, it actually has a spot now where it says which account was affected, who's the name holder of that account, what's the account number. And if you allow EFTs in your brokerage, make sure that you get a copy of the EFT receipt, because the EFT receipt will show you which account it came from and which account it went into. In our area, we're finding now that even attached to the listings as an attachment to the listings, there's the actual EFT or deposit form straight from the listing brokerage. I don't know if anybody else is seeing that, but in the GTA, that is very, very common. So we're finding that the information is right there. You as the brokerage, you want to make sure if your buyers are doing EFT direct, need a copy of the actual receipt, and that needs to go to you because that shows which account was affected, the account number, and where it went into. Okay. Those are really the highlights. There's lots of little changes in the forms, but I am available as with Sam and I, have been really diving into making sure we're going through everything. If you do get inspected, you need to show your risk assessment. You need to be doing a risk assessment every 2 years. Okay. If you need help with that, I can send you mine. Basically let you see what I did. So you need to make sure you got your risk assessment. You need to make sure you've got a FinTrack policy and procedure manual, and you need to make sure you have a company policy and procedure manual, and you need what they call as a FinTrack regime document, which is available through Create. Any comments, questions? Anybody already implementing these changes? Okay, really, really important that, this is going to be with, as I say, starting next year, you're going to see FinTrack is going to really increase. And I've been hearing that they're hiring a lot more investigators. They're going to start really increasing their audits. Okay. Clarence was kind enough to be the first guinea pig with Realty Executives. So when I got mine, I called him and they came and did mine, and then they did a follow-up about 6 months later. Nothing was found, but they did a follow-up 6 months later and asked us to send them the last 50 transactions that we did. So, so they're pretty secure, pretty thorough on it. But I did want to highlight that because that's very, very important that you keep compliant, obviously, with RICO, which I know all of you do, but FinTrack has just added some new stuff. And if you have any questions whatsoever, Sam and I are here to help you. Okay. I'm going to share my screen because we have franchise training coming up October 5th to the 7th. Let me just load in that for everybody. And then we will get talking about it. And Alicia can actually really talk about it because this is her baby.
Yes. So number one, I would encourage everyone to register no matter what, even if you've gone through franchise training before. We actually decided to do it virtually again this year, which, I wasn't super happy about at first, but now I think it's kind of our only option, at least for this year. So hopefully back to in-person stuff starts in 2022. But so it's the 5th through the 7th. We already have the schedule out that shows you the breakdown of what each session is about, how long it will last, when it starts and ends. It's all listed on this form in Pacific time. But one thing that people always ask, so number one, if you register one time, you have access to all of the meetings. If you have something going on and you can't go to every session, don't stress about it because I will send the recordings of every single session to everyone. I just have to go in and break them down after we do the recording each day. So it takes a little time to convert them. But you'll have access to all of them to watch them at any time. So if you can't make one session, don't worry about it. Just make sure that you can attend the ones that, number one, you're interested in, or the ones that you're available for. It's free to everyone in the network. The only thing that I ask is that you don't invite any of your executives. This is a great opportunity for brokers, owners, recruiters, admins who want to learn a little bit more about everything that Realty Executives has to offer. But it's really not appropriate for agents just because some of the things that we discuss during this meeting, it doesn't really apply to the agents. So, we'll do like a marketing overview, a technology overview. We spend a lot of time on recruiting and competitive intelligence, but some of the stuff, particularly the things that you'll see on Wednesday, which is the second day, we're going over brokerage accounting best practices, talking about insurance and legal considerations, things that really the execs just don't need to worry about. So I do ask that you don't share the link with them to register, but anyone in your office who you think would, that you would want to see this kind of content, please don't hesitate to have them register, because the more the merrier on this. It's a Zoom call, so it's meant to be really interactive and engaging. And I think personally, the best part about doing this virtually and like the presentations as they are, we go through, we do have presentations, but after the presentation, we spend a good amount of time talking about the topics too. And so not only are you learning from the content that we've put together, but you're also getting to learn from your peers in the network who have their own unique insights on each of these items. In various ways. We have brokerages of all shapes, sizes, and from all locations. So you get a lot of different viewpoints on some of these topics.
Yeah, it's a great event. And it's really important that, even being an existing broker, International does a wonderful job in introducing and implementing a whole bunch of new stuff. And this is a great way to really, see what's there. And the part that I really like is all the interaction, and even just I just threw up the agenda here, but you get right into what kind of agent pricing plans are people doing, what is the competitive intelligence in compared to what are your competitors doing, and getting right into recruiting discussions. So all the way through, it's a great few days. So I really do encourage you to participate. And especially, I'm going to suggest that Amanda, which is super glad to see you on here, that this would be a great event for you as well. And I've signed up for it. I love going through it. I always learn something. So I do encourage either yourself, or if you've got a recruiting person, a manager, anybody in that position, I think would be a real advantageous thing for you.
Yeah, and I just popped the registration link into the chat for anyone who doesn't have it. And you can sign up that way. But yeah, anyone that you want to send to training, please do so. We don't have limitations on how many people attend or anything like that. But I will say, throughout the year, because some stuff is always changing, it's hard when you guys are busy, keeping up with everything in Prime Agent and everything at Realty Executives. It's hard to do. And so this is a really nice review and catch up. So even if you just want 3 days to try to get as much info as you can to bring you up to speed on what we have, what's available, what people are doing. This really is the best way to do that, because you have everyone focusing just for those 3 days, and then, moving forward. So I would strongly recommend that everyone attends if you can.
Yeah. Now, Alicia, I do not have a slide or information except the fact that this year our annual convention is still going to be virtual. Last year we did the unconventional convention, which was super, great speakers, great interaction. This year it is November 17th to the 19th.
Yeah.
Maybe Alicia, you could just elaborate a little bit more. I know there's going to be information coming out of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's basically, consider this unconventional 2.0. It'll be November 17th through 19th in the same setup as we did the previous year. So we'll have a couple of presentations in the morning block. We have a good break during, middle of the day, so people can do what they need to do for business. And then we'll have two presentations in the afternoon. So again, we have loaded up the schedule with speakers that aren't necessarily real estate trainers. We have people from all different industries that are talking about things that really pertain to real estate, even though it may not be directly about, a real estate business. So for example, we have a couple of names that you may have heard of. So there's Phil Jones. This is a trainer, a speaker. He actually trains in all different industries. He's the author of the book, Exactly What to Say. So he's going to be one of our presenters. We have people from the hospitality industry. I have someone coming to speak about culture who is from Zappos. So a lot of different interesting companies that we have speakers from, different topics. Emotional intelligence is another segment that we have going on. So I think the agents are going to enjoy this. It's free to everyone in the network. It's appropriate for everyone in the network. So I would love if you would help us to get your executives to register as soon as I have the registration link available. I would say in the next week or two, I will be sending out a save the date, just so everyone in the network knows that it's November 17th through 19th. I'm just finalizing a few details with a recording studio to be able to send that registration link to everyone. But Free, we want to get as many people in there as possible. I think last year we had about 2,500 people register for that event. So I would love to see that over 3,000. That would be a great way to get everyone together and, sharing ideas, checking out different content. And of course, register once, you have access to everything, and I'll provide recordings for everything too.
Super. Okay. Now, one of the other things that has been put out is the, certified luxury marketing that Realty Executives introduced. And one of the things that we're finding is that we're trying to get more people involved, more executives involved with this. And maybe again, Alicia, if you could sort of just, give us an overview of, I have some of my realtors here have gone through the training and actually have got the certification of it and are using some of the products. Where we were having some difficulty is understanding what the parameters are for an executive to be able to use this Realty Executives collection. And for those of you that may not be aware, Realty Executives does have this luxury Executives Connect collection that is a little bit different marketing material than just the regular stuff.
Yeah.
Correct, Alicia?
Yeah, so to help explain it to you, I just want to provide a little bit of background on like where this comes from and how this Realty Executives collection came about. Because for those who have been in the network for a long time, like way back in the day, more so before I was at Realty Executives, there was a luxury line that they called Realty Executives Luxury Estates. And what happened with that is there was special signage for luxury estates. There was a logo for luxury estates, but there was no limitations on who could use it and where they could use it. And so we had a couple of things happening. Number one, we'd have executives who would, attempt to jump into luxury real estate without knowing anything about luxury real estate, no experience, no training. Which is kind of a disadvantage, especially for those that are marketing themselves as a luxury agent with Realty Executives. But number two, it created a lot of muddiness for us on the branding side, because we did have some people that would go and they'd say, well, I like that yard sign better than the Realty Executives yard sign, with our standard logo and everything like that. Or I like, the look of this, I like the look of this logo and signage, but I'm going to go put it on a property that's $50,000. So there was really no parameters, or a way to kind of control how people use the luxury collection, which ultimately diminishes the power of it, because if people are using it on non-luxury properties and things like that, then essentially we're just creating multiple looks for the brand, and it gets very confusing for consumers. So when we redid this program, we wanted to put in some structure to it that really kind of locked down the program. So only true luxury agents were using the signage and the logos, and they were only using them on luxury properties. And that's where this brochure comes in. But basically, we established a partnership with the Institute for Luxury Home Marketing, serves the US and Canada. And what we're asking people to do is to join the Institute for Luxury Home Marketing. And to join the Institute, you have to take an initial training course. And so this could be something that is a live event, which they've paused for a while, but I think they're starting to get back into the live events. You can do a live event. You can do the training online at your own pace. I believe they say it's about 8 hours worth of training. And then for those people who are actually already selling luxury and they can prove that they've had multiple luxury deals within the last 24 months, there's a fast track training that they can also complete. And that's only about 4 hours, which gives them membership to the Institute. As soon as they become members of the Institute by completing that initial training, they're going to get access to the Realty Executives Collection logos, and they're also going to have a link to order the signage, which we have the signage through Oakley. And basically, every time something is ordered, Oakley and Realty Executives, we're going through a list of members of the Institute and making sure that they're approved and that they've completed the training they need to be able to use the signage. And so in that sense, I know that can be frustrating from some agents, because they're like, why is this locked down? Why can't I just get the sign? And that's why we want to make sure that they complete the training and not just, grab the logo or grab the signage and say, hey, I'm going to go use this. The last ask on all of this is that when the agents are using the signage and the logos, we would like them to use them on properties that the Institute considers a luxury property. So on the Institute's website, there's actually a link that talks about the luxury threshold. And it does it based on a geographic area. And honestly, the thresholds are much lower than what I would expect because it's looking at like an average price. So for example, like here in Arizona, it's not looking at luxury in Paradise Valley or Scottsdale. It's actually looking at all of Maricopa County. And so the luxury threshold is a little bit lower than probably what you would expect in certain areas. But those are kind of the two things, like join the Institute, make sure that you're trained as a luxury agent, then you have access to the collateral. And then number two, make sure you're only using it on luxury properties as defined by the Institute. But any members who have already done the training, maybe just need to reactivate their membership with the Institute. That's fine. They don't have to take it over again. But we do want to make sure that they go in and they're getting the education along with the assets.
Okay, so there is a fee attached to this, Alicia, for members?
There is. So if they have not been members before and they need to go through and take the training, it will depend on whether they're doing like a live training or whether they're doing the online one. I'll pull up the Institute and let you know what that amount is because it might have changed a little bit. But if they have already completed the training and they're just not an active member with the Institute, they can reactivate their membership for $250 a year, and it's USD.
So then in a community, I know like the agents that in my office that work in downtown Toronto or work in real high-end luxury, they have gone ahead and done this. But for a community maybe like Sudbury or for the outer GTA areas, is there a different threshold?
There is.
Okay.
There is a link here, and I'm going to find it's a luxury threshold lookup. And they have a map, an interactive map here, and I'm going to just pop it into the chat.
Okay.
But you can actually go into the different areas and like zoom in and kind of see what the threshold will be for certain areas.
Okay, good.
Just put that in there.
Okay. And that's super, that's so those are two, really interesting things with the luxury marketing. And then obviously the franchise training that, going to get some really good ideas and sort of a little bit of differentiation between, other companies, for instance. And speaking of, one of the things we have to look at is what do we do as a company, as brokers, understanding that, we are running a company, we are running a business, we need to be recruiting, because recruiting is what brings agents to our business, which starts putting money at the bottom line. And Realty Executives International has actually put together, I reviewed this, and it's really right on track for, us as brokers need to be looking at what is our unique selling proposition, right? So what is it that makes us different than our competitors? And so what they have put together, and this is something that I'm going to really encourage all the brokers to do, because my commitment through this is I would like to go through this individually with each broker, come see you, go through, how you're doing your recruiting strategy, your retention strategies, and really use this platform that they've introduced here to really focus in on, what is your unique selling proposition? And it's going to be different for each broker in our system. But there's going to be some crossovers. So I do want to sort of go through this with you, and it is open discussion. So if you have any comments, any questions, Alicia was very instrumental in her team putting this together. And so I've gone through it and it's right on track. And so this whole brochure is really talking about, looking at what is going to make you different. Okay. How are you going to communicate your message? How do you determine what is, your uniqueness? And actually in here, they give you some comments, some responses that you could use. Okay. And Alicia, jump in any time, because I know you probably presented this many times before. Okay. But again, it's the whole idea of, creating what is your mission and purpose. And it's going to be a little bit different for all the different brokerages. Okay. And the whole idea behind this is, what services do the brokers offer? How do you deliver those services? Why do you even, why are you even doing this? Why, what's the purpose and everything that you're doing here? And how does this all tie together so that you can relay that and be able to attract realtors to your brokerage, right? And relay that to your existing brokers, okay? Again, looking at, this would be sort of an example of, what is your purpose, the reason for your brokerage, okay? For example, we believe agents are entrepreneurs and should be our sole customer. We provide excellent support to agents so they can focus on servicing their buyers and sellers and growing their business. So definitely a statement that all of us could use, but you may want to tweak it to make it your own, right? You may want to come up with, what do you do to show the people your purpose? And again, this would be where, how do you provide your support? How is that delivered? Do you have special pricing plans? So this gives you an idea on, what sort of an example is of where you could fill in the blanks.
Yeah, the nice thing about this too, and Scott, I think you're gonna probably you're gonna get to a slide that talks about this, but the cool thing about this workbook, it's kind of already 80% done for you, to be honest with you, because what we did is we surveyed the entire network. And I will tell you that we've got hundreds of results that I hand sorted and read every single one of them. So it's not something that we said, oh, hey, this is what you should say, because this is what we think is important about your brokerage. This is what all of the executives are saying about what's important about your brokerage, important about your brokerages, why they join, why they stay, what they like about it, the best parts. And so I would really be surprised, if you were to survey just your own executives, I would be really surprised if these results on here didn't match up with what they're saying. And so in that sense, there's some things that are going to be unique about your brokerage that don't exist everywhere in the network. But I do think that these topics are most likely going to be the things that you want to talk about. And then you're just kind of adding in those extra details to make your selling proposition unique.
Yeah, so in this is so thorough, they even gave answers, right? So very interesting through the surveys they did. Very interesting to see through the surveys on what the actual top 3 or 4 were, which were probably different than some of the brokerages believe they were going to be. And so you get right into where you can put in, and we will build these out together, but give you an idea of some of the responses from people that were part of the survey. And then based on the survey, here are the type of responses that you can give, and then build out your unique selling proposition is really what this is designed for. Okay, right down to brand recognition, right down to everything. Samples, here's what, here's the answers, here's what the surveys show. And then we will go through for all the different topics and go through them. And then the whole idea is that we will then together, I'll come see you, then we go through it all and we really gear it towards your particular brokerage, and I see how I can help you attain what you're trying to attain through doing this. Okay. And I'm going to send this out to everybody after this call, so you will have it, but right down to your elevator pitch, right down to, here's some samples. And so the whole idea behind this is really to build it out and to help you get into a position where you can use the systems and tools, and International has come out with, the different recruiting things built right into Prime Agent that we can use as brokers to really focus on being involved with you, helping you build the business the way you want to build it. Okay. And right down to, we were part of, there were some regional developers that were part of doing some, espionage, let's call it, checking into what our competitors are doing, and we really got in depth. So there is some, there's Canadian content, there's information on Royal LePage, there's information on Sutton Group, there's information on Exit. And so we have some of that intel that we'll be sharing with you as well.
And also, as you come across, as you check out those cards and you say, hey, there's some people, there's some companies in my area that you want cards for, we are 100% open and willing to make more competitor cards. We obviously can do our own research. We can talk to people and kind of put stuff together. So if you do see some that are missing that would be helpful for you to have, just let us know and we can work on putting those together for you.
Thoughts, comments on how this seem of interest to brokers? See this as being an advantage? I think my position is I want to help you get to wherever it is you want to get to, and I think this format and the systems that are built into this can really help focus us working together to get you there. So. So I know if I send it out and I don't get anything back, then I'm going to have to make some, surprise phone calls or surprise drop-ins and go, hey, where's this form? Thoughts? Don't everybody put your hand up at once. It's okay to be scared and say, Scott, I'm not interested, but I'm going to help you be interested. So, and, but I just think it's something as a business owner, you need to go through. For us to help you, International, myself to help you, we need to know where you're at, where you see your company, so we can help put things together to drive that forward with you.
And don't worry about wordsmithing it either. Really thinking about the concepts, thinking about the differentiators, that's key. We can wordsmith it for you. That's what marketing teams are for. It's kind of their sole job. So don't stress out over that. As long as you're coming up with some content when it comes to actually perfecting it, we can certainly assist. So this should be a low stress activity, but one that once you do it once, you can apply it everywhere and keep using it for a very long time. Minimal updates would be needed in the future.
Sorry, Scott, I missed it, but where do we find this?
I'm going to send it to you.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, I'll send it out to everybody. I just wanted to sort of give an overview of it. And then obviously it's, individually go through it. And then I am, I'm on the road. I'm back on the road. So Porter started flying again, so I can get to some of those northern places, Ontario, faster than driving. So, but yeah, this is definitely something that I think would be advantageous for us, helping you move forward and seeing where you're at with your organization and see where you would like to take it and what your uniqueness is and how we can help you promote that. Okay. And on that particular note, something different, something trying to help. Back in November, I was sort of sitting around trying to figure out, okay, what can I figure out that's going to help attract realtors to our brokerages. And one of the things that you really just, I was getting hit in the head, and I heard from you people saying, we have all these, we have this great training. Nobody knows about this great training we have, or every company says they have training. So what makes us different? Well, in November, I was sitting around, I was talking with my wife, Nadine, I'm going, the one thing that really drives me nuts and that I've seen in this industry is that there has been for a while, a lack of accountability. So lack of accountability for where agents are looking at, they're always looking, okay, you're hearing, okay, well, we want the cheapest price. What are you going to do for training? What are you going to do for leads? So I thought I'm going to create something that I remember when I got into business, it was accountable. You had to be in the office at a certain time. You had to, your lunch break was at a certain time. You had to make so many calls. You had to do so much prospecting. You had reviews every week on the activities. And I know that we try to do that with, some of the agents we recruit, and we present that. And most of the time the agents are, well, I got into this business because I want to be independent. Probably the worst word they could use in a business that you really need to be accountable. there are some realtors that come in and they're very, very accountable to themselves. So late November, early December, I looked and investigated all different aspects of what companies were trying to do to attract new people or people that were struggling. And I see the words mentorship, I see the words, things like that. I decided to put together a program I called Realty Executives Apprenticeship Program. And so what my format for that was, I wanted to find a way of attracting either agents that have been in the business 6 months to 18 months or just under 2 years that had gone somewhere else and were struggling or finding that it wasn't working for them. The training that they got in mass rooms or online or just wasn't giving them the guidance that they needed to really do a career in real estate. And then I looked at, okay, in Ontario, we were switching over to the new Humber College was then becoming the new instructor for licensing. And they had changed the format a fair bit to the point where the realtors that were going through the new format were actually coming out with more knowledge than just how not to get sued, right? So any of the new realtors were coming through the program, especially through Humber College, were coming out with more of an understanding, more of a business sense. There were extra courses that they had to do that were really geared directly at being a realtor. So I looked at saying, okay, what can we do to do this? So I created this apprenticeship program. And the apprenticeship program, really how I have decided that it would be the best way to do it was, at least I was going to do it as a pilot project before I introduced it or gave you the option of saying, this might be something that you could look at doing. So with my apprenticeship program, it was really geared for me. I certainly couldn't do it because I have too many hats, and just for me to try to do that, I designed it in such a way that it is being a realtor. It's an apprenticeship. It's a 1-year program. You have accountability. I will take on the expenses of things for you, but you are going to be accountable to the point where you have to be in daily sessions. You have to be reporting on activities. You are going to get full support throughout the whole year, right down to appointments, right down to anything to do with being a realtor. And so I actually looked at hiring somebody to be that position, at least in my organization, so that they would be the person that would be focused on doing this. I created a compensation program for that particular person. Part of at least what I've done, part of it is a monthly salary as well as bonus from commissions earned from salespeople. Now, I've structured it that way because I'm in an area that I'm trying to build this bigger, and I wanted to make sure that it had the right attention to it. And actually, Bunny, who is on the call with us, Bunny is a realtor that came to my company from another top team in the GTA. Her background is she has worked on, good realtor, worked on many different teams, been an instructor, actually went through the Ontario Humber College courses as well. So Bunny is my director of executive development for this apprenticeship program. And I'm basically going to, Bunny, if you just unmute yourself and just talk about the program before I bring up the actual slides on just what, how it's sort of been received.
Sure.
Okay.
So from the agents that have come in, the new agents that we have that have come in, it's been received extremely well. I do have a variety of agents who just got their license. So brand new, never been with a brokerage, don't know anything about it. They're loving it. And then I also have agents who have been in the industry and struggled, like Scott was saying. And they're loving it as well because they're getting the training and the knowledge, the guidance. And, you know, this industry can be a scary thing, especially if you're starting out new and you don't know what you're doing. And I help them. I always say to them, I got you. I'll be there with you every step of the way. So it's not unusual for me to get calls evenings, weekends, whenever, that they're working on a deal and look, this is what happened. What do I do now? So yeah, I mean, it's just the response has been very good. So very happy with how everybody is enjoying it.
Yeah. So for, you know, obviously for certain brokerage sizes, may not be in a position to have somebody who's dedicated, you know, to do that. But the way I've sort of done the structuring of it is if you had a mentor, you know, mentor agent, or what we actually class, you know, in the marketing that we did, is that they would be assigned to one experienced realtor, and that realtor would be, you know, responsible for doing this type of support. And it actually has been pretty receptive. Now, one of the things that we were trying to figure out is, how do we attract these people? How do we get the opportunity? And understand, this program is not geared to just hiring brand new people. They go through an interview process with Bunny. They then go through an interview process with me. And it's all about, we want full-time people, we want dedicated, we want people that are understanding accountability. So out of, you know, all the different people we interviewed so far, we have six that are in the program. Our target for the first year was 5 to go through the program, with an annual, next year we're looking at putting 10 through the program. Okay, I'm going to share my screen, and what I'm going to go through with is how we use the social media, thanks to Jake, who is is the gentleman that we use for social media stuff. And we came up with Facebook and Instagram ads that then they would fill out. And then that took them to a link that took them to, Bunny would get the information. She would then connect with them, do a presentation. The next process was interview. So I'm just going to share that with you, and we'll go through that, because I think this in some format in your brokerages, you should be able to use this to attract recruits.
And I will say, while you're doing that, Scott, that one of the things that I kept hearing when I was doing my recruiting, or even with the agents I have now, is there's no other brokerages that are doing this. So it makes us that much more attractive, because as there are other brokerages that may be doing some training sessions, but not to the degree of the hands-on side of things.
Yeah, and it's interesting because the word apprentice seems to be, you know, there's lots of people talking about, oh, we have a mentorship program, we have a training program. The word apprentice, and the reason we want to use apprentice is it's a commitment. You know, an apprentice is going in to get trained, but there's a commitment level there. So, you know, this will be the overview of what and how we attracted them, and then the process we went through, what we offered them, and give you an idea. So we started with this as one of our ads. And in the initial aspect of it, we were looking at brand new, and then we were looking at somebody who was currently licensed, who would be interested in the apprenticeship program. So this is a sample of one of the ads that we ran, and it really just talks about, learn about our apprenticeship program. We took the stats from our international, obviously what we do internationally and how that compares to the standard. This is another of the ads that we ran. And then as they went through, they would just put in their contact information. And this will give you an idea when we ran it from March to the end of May. on Facebook, we had 185 leads. And in that period of time, we spent $1,318.
And those leads were all, I mean, if you refer to sort of like our real estate leads, these leads were good leads. I mean, I've had conversations with 90% of those leads.
Yeah, and some of the leads had not even were not even in the course.
Not even in the course yet.
So
yeah.
we screened those out, looked for people that were in the course.
Yeah.
And then, or ones that were, yes, I have my license.
Yeah.
And then the ones that were not in a course yet, we are just putting them sort of in a program that just drip program, talking about, through Realty Executives. So, a year and a half from now or a year from now, they've got information from us about being a realtor when they get closer to being finished. So our target for doing interviews and trying to get people in was really geared at somebody who's already in the course or somebody that already had a license. Just gives you an idea of the reach that we did with that amount spent, how many ads, how many results we got directly from Facebook, from Instagram, how many we reached, how much we spent. So obviously Facebook was way better in the sense of results, but Instagram did give us a presence. This was interesting to see sort of the demographics of who were responding. And we've actually hired from pretty well the first
Almost
four.
every one of them.
Yeah, probably the first four. A couple definitely in this category right here, the 18 to 24, which was interesting to see, sort of in this category here in the 20s, it was people that we were interviewing, coming from, education and, looking at or had family members that had, interest in real estate in the background or had some kind of influence.
And I will say too, that group, the first two groups there, those ones they are really good to capture those ones because they really are keen. They typically they don't have kids yet, or they don't have other responsibilities. This is what they're focusing on. Because my two that are in that age group, they are total go-getters, and they're there and they're ready to learn. They're like sponges. They just want to take it all in.
And so then once they, when they fill it all out, they get to our landing page. And I'm just going to new share. I'm going to throw up the landing page here and show you what they see. So when they fill in all the information, this is the landing page that they get to. They fill out this information. It talks about our apprenticeship program, talks about a little bit of our branding, and it gets down to at the bottom what our executives, people in the program, have to say. So it really takes them through, gives them professional, we feel that, one, the ad works well. We tweaked it, there were some that we, first few we tried, it was like, yeah, we're asking too much information or we're giving them too much information. They wouldn't fill it in. And then we started with, Jake's help and our feedback, we really tweaked it and really started getting some really good response. And then, so once they get to this scenario, Bunny would reach out to them and sort of do a conversation. Ideally is the first thing would be a conversation with them. If not, if it's just a text, it's then, okay, where can we send you? When can we do a presentation to you? And then it got to the point where she would start doing interviews or giving the information and getting, sometimes during that conversation, well, I'm 4 months out, I'm 6 months out, I'm only in the first. So it was a matter of, okay, how do we allocate them into categories and do drip using the Realty Executives recruiting, drip campaign is something that we implemented. And then depending where they were in their cycle, then they would, she would put them into prime agent contacts and with the reminders is, hey, got to reach out to this person, got to reach out to this person. And then from that, then she would do her presentation. which is. So this is the presentation, and maybe Bunny, as we go through this, you should just sort of, as you were, talking with them, how you presented this. And I'll just sort of slide through here.
Yeah, so I obviously talk a little bit about realty executives and, the history behind that, and where obviously we're the US and Canada. And then I talk sort of more locally that this is where we are located. The one thing with those leads is geographically, I would get a lot of people from Scarborough, or you get people from, outside the city, which is fine. It's great to know that everybody's interested, but we want people in the office. And if they're living in Scarborough, I don't know if they're willing to make the commute, but we're definitely open to it if they are. I'm happy to, make things work for anybody. But yeah, just sort of talk a little bit about the office. I do talk a lot about the fact that we are a team, but you're growing your own business, right? So I think it's really important for them to understand that just because it's a team, it doesn't mean you're growing somebody else's business, that you're working on your own, like your own business, but we work together as a team and support each other.
And the reason we did that is we found that lots of new people coming into the industry are saying, well, they're telling me I should be part of a team to get the experience. And our whole play on that is, that's great. You want to be part of the team, but understanding that when you go to lead that team, you're taking no database, you're not taking any information, you are starting fresh. Yeah. And Bunny was really good at talking from that because she was on 2 top teams. So that's one of the aspects of this, is that we really want to focus in on the realtor who wants to make it a career and make their own business. So as I say, we weren't hiring everybody we interviewed.
Right. I explained to them that it is a 1-year commitment, and that they are expected to be in the office daily, or as we've been doing during COVID, we do Zoom calls every day. So they are expected to be on the Zoom calls every day. We do a lot of different types of training, the dialogue and the script, which is, I always say to them, this stuff is really important because this is what helps give you the confidence when you're out there, and helps you look that much more professional. So you don't look like you're quite so green. The seller buyer presentations, once you get that appointment, now what are you going to say? So we work on building all that stuff. Role playing is a big thing. Obviously that comes with the dialogue and the script training. And then we do goal setting and tracking. So that's one of the first things we do when a new apprentice comes on, is we do talk about goals. We stretch it out for the year, and then I have them do the first quarter. And then we revisit it close to the end of the first quarter to see, are they meeting those goals, and is that going to help them get to their year-end goals? So this just talks about, what the mentor provides for them as far as, the support, the coaching. Like I said, working on the goals, doing the training, motivating, advising, celebrating their success, and help giving them directions. Also, we are there as mentors to any in-person appointments. A lot of agents, it's the first time they're doing this. They like a listing appointment, I would never expect them to go out on their own. For sure, I'd be going with them initially. Even sometimes showings, I have them shadow me on showings so that they get comfortable with how that process goes. And I will make that comment now because Scott said to make sure I let you guys know this. We also, as I call them, we're going on a field trip. So I had one agent who had been in the industry for a year, and she'd never booked a showing. So that was like, okay. So I put her through the process. I want you to book the showings. And then we went out and we did them together, and just so that she knew what to do, because she had absolutely no idea. We had another agent who had a listing. So I had everybody in the group. We're going down to preview their listing and go through the process and what we're going to do to get this condo listed. So we do a lot of like hands-on stuff. I explained to them about the CRM that we have with Prime Agent and how this Prime Agent CRM really does, as far as I'm concerned, stand out over others. It offers a lot as far as our drip campaign, marketing, the training. But you guys all know that. So. And then the next one would be, I talk about the DMX. So that's one of the first things that we work on when they come is the DMX training to make sure they get that. I always talk about the fact we're in a digital marketing era and everybody needs to know what they need to do. I find that the DMX is a great tool to get them started because it gets them moving their database over right away. It gets them working with their database. And that's the first place they need to start is to, work on the relationship with the people that they know.
And it's mandatory. They have to do this.
They have to do it. Yeah. Yep. And then I just sort of go through, this is what we provide to them. So the business cards, the website, the team support and mentoring, the CRM and training. Their leads, they're sold and for sale signs, and the coaching. And I do like to point these things out that coaching and leads and the CRM and training, those things on their own can be like, if you're paying for those things on your own, that can be really expensive. So the fact that our program includes all these things is amazing.
And that's the feedback you were getting during the interviews.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And when it comes to leads, just we originally didn't have leads in there when we were getting, there's other brokers that offer leads, and there are lots. And that's why they say, well, they want to go to a team. So we implemented where we are using Google ads. We have, we're using a supplier to get ads. Our budget for that is really around $500 a month. $500 to $750 a month we're sort of using on online leads, Facebook leads. All the leads go to Bunny directly. She then assigns the leads, and there's all kinds of follow-up that these agents must report back, just as if they're part of a team. But the lead is theirs, it's not ours. So it is their lead. That's why we say when you finish this one-year program, through us, you actually are building your own database. You're not building a team leader database. And that was a huge difference, I think, Bunny, and during some of the interviews where they were going to join a team at Keller Williams or they were going to join a team somewhere else. This was, especially for the ones that we found that were motivated, self-driven, they weren't looking just for, they were glad that the leads were there, but that was something they said, that's great, but it wasn't like that's the only reason.
Yeah.
Or we had some people, right?
Yeah, these the young ones, they want to grow a business. They're looking to grow an empire, right? And I have to tell you that when you actually tell somebody about the whole team concept, there's a lot of the new agents who have no idea that if they left a brokerage or they left a team, that they'd have to leave any business that they had acquired while they were there. A lot of them have no idea that that's the situation. So it was good to tell them.
So our compensation program for them is they're on a 50-50 commission split, no monthly fee. So included in their program is the Realty Executives International fee, Realty Executives Regional fee, the Prime Agent upgrade, so I think $10 US a month, a website. We do give them a couple choices on website. I know Alicia would love us to push the Realty Executives International website, but in the GTA, well, there's one company, Alicia, that I showed you, and Dave, the last time you were here, Incom, that one thing that everybody likes about theirs, it also has all the pre-construction in it as well, which is a big hot item in the GTA. If how do we get involved with pre-construction? So lots of gone that route. Some have done the Realty Executives, but so we include the website, we include signs for them. Basically, our signs are generic signs with a sign writer with their name. So the call does go directly to them, but it makes it easy to have a generic sign with a sign writer. And then we give them cards. They are responsible though for their own board fees. They're responsible for their own RICO fees. And if they want to do additional marketing, that's at their cost. So they're 50-50 to a gross of 60,000. Then they go to 95.5 for closings that year. Out of the 30,000 that we get, 50% goes back to the brokerage to cover off the expenses, and 50% goes to the mentor, okay? These are some of the people that have gone through. So in our presentation, we have some of the testimonials. And interestingly enough, Lena came to us from, she was, it was during COVID, but still, all the things that Realty Executives International did for us during COVID with, really implementing the different DMX programs and stuff. She was with Royal LePage, a strong Royal LePage office, and had no interaction at all.
That was really a shame.
Training for her was go online, click on and go through it. So she joined us from Royal LePage and has done very well. Background is an engineer. So Lorena was actually part of a team within our brokerage. Then that person then decided that they were just going to they were going to downsize their team, recommended Lorena come to us, and she has soared. She has just been, the confidence level in her has totally changed.
Yeah.
Really changed to the point where she's saying, well, if I'm looking at, down the road, building my own team, can you help me with that? So we have found that, this program has certainly gained traction and has definitely, tweaked the industry a little bit just by using the word apprentice, but really designing it that there's a commitment level there and it's not just for everybody. So I wanted to introduce that to you. I want to, there may be an opportunity that in your territory, you might be able to implement it in some way. Maybe there is somebody who is in your brokerage that would want to be a mentor in this kind of, facilitate this kind of avenue. I can certainly help with, between Jake and myself and Bunny, we can help support you in any way that you want. But I wanted to introduce you and let you know what kind of success we've been having with it here as a pilot project. I needed to try it to really get a feedback on what the realtors are saying, how the program would roll out. Comments, thoughts?
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
With the leads that were coming in, like for you guys to interview, were you trying to direct them to your custom page on realtyexecutivesplus.ca, or were you capturing that lead information on Facebook, or both?
Yeah. I can actually say that the landing page, when they filled in the information, and Jake, are you there? Maybe, yeah, maybe he's.
I'm here. Sorry, I was just on mute.
Yeah, can you sort of walk through sort of how it works?
How the ads work?
Yeah, so if someone sees the ad and then they click on and we're asking them for information, where is that? How are we getting their information? I guess as Alicia really wants to try and find out.
Yeah, whether you're using the Facebook form or whether you're directing them to the Realty Executives apprentice page that you built.
We used the Facebook form and we just simplified it. Like Scott mentioned at the beginning, we were asking a bunch of questions, but we noticed that it wasn't really getting that much engagement. So we just kept it really simple. We just wanted to know if they were enrolled in any courses or if they were trying to pursue their real estate career. And that's basically the only two questions that we asked: their name and email. And their number, we just made it optional. And after that, they would submit the information to Facebook, and then we gave them the option to go on to the landing page that Scott showed for them to see all the, what is Realty Executives Plus about and stuff like that.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
No problem.
Thoughts? Something that any of you want to look at further, see if I can help in the area where you are?
Scott, I'd say, through COVID, we've kind of taken a back seat to recruiting. But I think as we're coming out of it, it's time to really get back on the horse and try to pursue it. I mean, the true performers through COVID shined through, and those who saw this as an easy way to make money realized very quickly it wasn't that way, and they do need the mentoring and they do need the support. But I think we got to corral some of them, even our own existing people, back into the fold and reach out. I mean, I have a bunch of extra space here now, and I'd like to, sort of maybe talk it up with you or some of the others, but I'm willing to give a very large private office to a small team at no cost, suck up some fees for the balance of the year, or maybe even a little longer to get them on board. But that's open for another discussion, and this might fit into that as well. But I don't know if anybody's had any luck dragging, I hate to use the term dragging, but bringing a team in.
Yeah, and this is where the idea of the apprenticeship sort of, we were trying to attract people that were, the whole goal for me was get them in, train them properly, get them to understand the culture of our brokerage and realty executives. And then next year they become a full-fledged agent within our organization.
Gotcha.
Right. Giving them the option that if they wanted to stay in the apprenticeship program, they could.
Yeah.
But then they could switch over to a regular executive program.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm a little off topic, but I have one question for Alicia,
Yep.
and I'm sure Scott, you can jump in. But last we were, I think, in Arizona, it seemed like the direction was team. And is that still the case?
I would say throughout the network, yes, where I've seen the most, let's significant growth in a really short period of time. It's not broker owners who are going out and recruiting one person at a time, although of course that is still happening. It's the brokers that are going out and they're recruiting teams, because then they're instantly adding 10 people, 5 people, things like that. And so there's been like a handful of, I would say, success stories in the network who have been very good at grabbing up those teams. One thing that I will say, though, that I've noticed it's kind of the common thread among the ones that are having a lot of success with that, they already have a decent amount of size when they start getting really good at attracting teams. So they're generally not like people who start with 10 people and then they add a team of 10. Like it's someone who might have 50 people and they add a team of 10. It's 100 people and they added, so it's that. I don't know if that's just an optics thing for the teams wanting to be part of something bigger, or if it's just practice because they've had so much like recruiting time in front of different people, solo agents and teams. But we do see a lot of success in terms of growth by bringing on chunks of people at a time versus the single agents. That being said, though, even like for us, like as a network, right? Like we're not 100,000 people, and so everything counts and everything matters. And so if you are starting from a smaller brokerage, even adding 2 people or 3 people can really, really move the needle. So even though we do see teams, it might not make sense for you. And I don't, we would never want to push that on someone. It's just more about what structure works best for your brokerage and where you would like to be. But I do think it gets easier as you get a little more size to your brokerage.
Thanks. I'm sorry, Scott, to sort of divert a bit there.
No, actually you went into my next thing. It says open discussion. So, but yeah, if any of you individually want to reach out to me, if you think the apprenticeship program or some derivative of it, would you be interested in that? I'm here to help. And that's why I wanted to go through the project first, because I had to go through the steps to really sort of, figure out what works, what didn't, and then how that could be implemented. So,
Scott, Mike here.
Yeah, Mike.
I have a question for you. First of all, I know we talked about it late fall and you told me you're working on something. So it's nice to see that it's come full circle. I think it's extremely well done from our standpoint up here. I think it's extremely well done. So congrats on that. One thing is, if I was, as an example of a broker owner, I did talk to one realtor about that. So would I be able to have that one realtor get mentorship before I would implement that program from you, from your office, just so he knows the program? You know what I mean?
Oh, I see. So if you had somebody that you want us to train as being the bunny, being the mentor.
Correct.
Absolutely, not a problem.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Now I just volunteered Bunny's time and my time, Bunny's time, but she's
Well,
wonderful. She is,
no,
yeah, I put together a complete, I was putting together a whole overview of who the person had to be, what they had to be like, what they had to do. And I kept going, I kept coming back and going, Bunny's in your office. She's done all this. She's, so absolutely. Anybody that you want to go through the program with us, not a problem.
I'm always happy to help,
obviously,
whatever I can do.
thank you. Thank you so much. And obviously I wouldn't ask for free, Scott. I know that's, that's time and effort, and there's some valuable information there. So obviously that's something we talked about, but I was just wondering if that was available. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anything to help, people grow their business, right? So that's why we needed to go through that, the trial to figure out, now we've got some answers. We've got, as Jake was saying, we ran some ads the first time and we were like asking questions like crazy. It was like, why is nobody responding? And so we made it simple and we started getting some really good inquiries. So, and we still have a pipeline, right, Bunny? We still have a pipeline of people that we're going through.
We had to turn it off because
Yeah.
there was too many. Like it was, we kind of hit what we wanted, our goal for this year. So, but now I'm going back to it to get ready, ramped up for next year. But yeah, there's a huge pipeline.
So we're going to reactivate it again and then start that flow of leads.
Yeah.
Follow up.
So you mentioned that the goal for the second iteration of this is probably 10 executives to go through the program.
Yes.
Scale wise, is that kind of where you're thinking the sweet spot is 10 people per coach, or how do you see this growing in the future on that end?
What we see is, because it's so hands-on, and and this is just because I have Bunny doing this. Now Bunny can be, she's super, she's there, she's attentive, but you also want to keep it small enough that there's an interaction so it doesn't become a classroom.
Yeah.
So and that's why the first year we said 5, and we found that sort of to be the number, because the way the program works is really front end loaded with lots of in class per se and lots of tasks that you have to get going in. And then once you got them through all their dialogue, through all the presentations, through their, the cycle of getting them to understand a weekly, daily flow of what business is, then they get into a habit. So you can let the reins off a little bit, but you can jump in anytime, but you can let the reins off a little bit and then bring a new group in to start them at this level. Started them at A again, yet the other ones are already down to G, H, going through the process.
Yeah.
So that's why we
still
see,
coming in and being part of the daily routine.
Yeah, but that's why we see sort of next year, and that's why we say 10, because I think you can do it in groups of 5 and 5, or trend, and so there's a little bit of an overlap. But if you tried to take 10 brand new through the same process, it becomes not as exclusive, not as apprenticeship style.
I would be worried that I'm not giving them the attention that they need. And that, to me, that's important. I want everybody to feel that they can come to me when they have something. I want to make sure that I'm available. So by doing it sort of like Scott was saying, sort of 5 and 5, then at least I know that I can be there if somebody needs me.
Yeah, and
if I have 10 agents who need me to go to listing appointments, or, it makes it tough for me to work on my business.
Well, and that's what's happening is what takes place is you get with 5, then you've got, okay, you know what, there's a listing presentation. we go to that listing presentation. Then the ones that get trained are okay doing their own listing presentation, but they still need the mentorship. They still need the accountability. Then you can bring the other ones through the START program again. So there's a little bit of an overlap. And the other reason we put a number on it is because then it is exactly what we say it is. We are hiring, we have space for 5 apprentices this year. We have space for 10 apprentices next year. That's it.
Yeah, gives it a little bit of a sense of urgency too, when it's limited seats.
Yeah.
Now, I will say on one of the, in the first contract, so basically it's a regular contract with a Schedule A. And in the Schedule A, it just talks about everything that we're supplying them. And in the first one I built out, my whole idea was to make this a value in the event that they leave the first year, within that first year, all the transactions that they still get paid out, but they also owe the company $2,500 for leaving early. I took that line out initially because we were getting a little bit of a little bit of pushback because we really didn't have anything to show success yet. But next year, the contract's going to have, there will be, you leave, it's a 1-year contract, but all your deals would be paid out 50-50 no matter where your program is, plus there's a $2,500 exit cost. So they see that there is, okay, you know what, I gotta be committed to this. So they have a bit of skin in the game, so to speak. But that was hard to sell that without having the testimonials and the production of the agents that went through the period already. But we're at that point now where we can show, hey, people are in this program, here's their testimonials, here's the deals they're doing, here's what they've been able to do. And so now we can add value to that and show that there's a value add to this.
Yeah.
Thoughts, questions, open discussions? Anybody else have any other questions? Was this time valuable? Did you get, hopefully you got something out of it? It's great to see everybody and looking forward to traveling around and seeing everybody in person.
It was great information, Scott. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate
Forward to it.
That was excellent. That was fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing that.
Okay, well, if there's any other questions before we sign off? No? Yeah, Jake. Not sure if he's.
Oh, sorry, I didn't have any questions. I was just sending a reaction.
All right, hey,
Like
thanks,
an
man.
applause for
Thumbs up,
the great
appreciate
news.
that. Thank you. All right, I will send out the unique selling proposition to everybody, so you'll have that. Start working on that. And if you want to, reach out to me on any of the other points individually, please do. And you want to talk about, the implementation of the apprenticeship format or some kind of format of it in your area. When we go through your, your unique selling proposition, we can add that to it too, because I think this ties into something that could be a differentiator for you, at least starting to get, something that's different. So, and Alicia, again, I want to thank you for all the time and you're putting into this and the rest of the team at International. Greatly appreciate all the support and all the stuff, and I look forward to the franchise training and the unconvention convention. So thank you, everybody. Appreciate the time, and we'll be in touch.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Bye.
Everybody.
Everyone.
Bye, everybody. Bye, Alicia.